here we are, and this is our first discussion point in the action section. And, when we think about taking some action, there's what we can do. Of course, there's what we want to do, which may not be the same. And then furthermore, those things we should do. So I don't know where you're going to fall into that category, but whatever action you do take, one of the basic things you should be aware of, which you are, unless you are already, that there's a natural kind of adoption process. In fact, it's it can almost be made into a curve, which makes a lot of logical sense. And I have one here that I got off of Wikipedia that was put in there by Carl Rogers, or Everett Rogers, I'm sorry. Everett has written a book, and this book is entitled Diffusion of Innovation. This happens to be the 4th edition by Everett Rogers. And this is a very excellent reference if you want to get into the issues of how a technology is diffused or transferred into a group or a community. And that doesn't just have to be a farming community or whatever. It could be any community. It could be government, it could be the military, it could be a corporation, whatever the case may be. Now, we're going to look at this curve, and as you can see, when you look at the pages, it has kind of an S shape to it, a lazy S, I guess you might say. And you'll see where at the beginning, there's people like early adopters, and then there's later adopters, and so on and so forth. The challenges, and one of the things that was brought out by Rogers, and when you think about it, and I can identify with this because I've had some experience in the agricultural community, things may start out kind of slow in the beginning, particularly if you're in a tradition-directed society, change is difficult. If you're in a change-motivated society like the United States and some of the other parts of the developing world, people don't have change. They get nervous. Well, what's new? What's new? We got to have some new stuff. And so they're easy adapters in many cases, whereas people in a tradition society are not. Now, when they tried to improve agriculture in this country, and by the way, there was a great example of changing agriculture after the Korean War in South Korea in a program, Samuel Undong, where they very effectively changed agricultural techniques and productivity in a relatively short time. And it's a study worth looking at if you're interested in just how do you go about improving adaptation rates. Now you'll notice in this overhead or this picture that we're looking at that there's kind of a bell-shaped curve. The blue line that kind of relates to, there's a lot of people, and then there's a few people slack off. And so in mathematical terms, if you were to look at the slope of this line as a function of time, and time, of course, is what's on the horizontal axis, it would take this very shape of the blue line. So it's a rate. This blue line is kind of an indication of, wow, rates increasing. So when you're in about the middle of the yellow line, the rate's a max of adoption. And then after a while, it tends to slow down as things begin to approach what might be called saturation, or 100% of whatever share of the market, whether it's the government you're selling to or you're trying to get the military to do it or whatever the case may be. The longer this takes, sometimes if you're a company and you were bringing in a new technology for your particular subculture or your company, you would want to have this occur very rapidly, very steep, timeline very short, because you made an investment in capital. And this could be a software item. It could be a piece of machinery in the manufacturing. because the longer it sits and isn't used to its fullest extent, which of course is when this is at 100, you've got what you might call opportunity costs. That money that you invested could have been put elsewhere in another opportunity and given you a greater return on your investment than it would be the case when it takes longer. That happens. So we visited a company years ago, and I was there and I saw this stamping machine, and I said, "Oh, that's a nice stamping machine. I'll bet that cuts some time off of your product in your manufacturing and increase your productivity." "Oh, yes." I said, "Well, is it in use yet?" "No." I said, "Well, when's it going to be put in?" "Well, during the lunch hour, Joe gets done with his lunch, and he goes over and he plays with it for a while, and he finally gets it to work. And we figure in a couple more weeks he'll have it figured out, and we'll put it in production." Well, see, that's very inefficient. The company management or whomever was responsible, or the company that sold the machine, did not do their job relative to minimizing opportunity costs and making this curve go up faster. Now, one of the things that Rogers has is a little commonsensical rule of thumb that's good to keep in mind as you think about this sort of thing, and it goes like this. Well, first you have to have some knowledge about something. Let's say you're in agriculture and you have to have knowledge that, oh, there's some new seeds out. Or things could go better if I fertilize. That could be some knowledge. Then the next thing is, I'm aware that something's out there. There's these different fertilizers out there. I wonder if I should use them. So there's knowledge, because you can't be aware of something if you don't have some basic knowledge about it. And you're aware, or you're being persuaded that, this might be a good thing to use. So there's knowledge, awareness. Then, well, before I use it, I want to try it, or watch somebody else try it, see if it's okay. And if it's okay, then I'll use it. So that's how the little rule of thumb goes. Knowledge, awareness, trial, and confirmation. Well, that's very logical. And just kind of remember that, because if you think in terms of those 4 steps and what you can do in each one of those, if you're trying to sell a product or inject a product that you've come up with that's new and different, or even if it's old, been around for a while, but the people you're dealing with didn't know it existed, you will have a way to affect the yellow line and make it reach that 100% in a much shorter period of time. And that's very, very important. So if you're saying, well, now, I don't know if I particularly like this technology that's being foisted on my community, what can I do about it? Well, your role in life then to see how can I get myself involved in the knowledge, awareness, trial aspect of things, to show and to slow it down, or to show that in the trial aspect, particularly, that there's negative consequences that maybe the promoter is not going to tell you about. So that when it comes time to confirmation, that confirmation will have a different color, a different quality than it would be if you had not acted. So think about, where can I put myself in this adaptation process so that I can have an impact, whether I do it as a group or whether I do it as an individual. So that's why it's important that we understand this general idea of what you might call the rate of acceptance. And that's what the blue line is a measure of rate of acceptance as time goes on. Next time we get together, we'll spend a few minutes talking about what can we do, who should we be dealing with in either trying to enhance the acceptance or modifying the acceptance in ameliorating some problem that we see coming around the bend. Who do we talk to, and who are the actors, and what kind of a role can we play there? Because what we're doing here fundamentally is we're saying we got a new technology. It's got to be transferred into a group or a culture or a company or whatever. What's that process? If I see that process, how do I engage myself in that process to have an impact? That's what we're really talking about here. And so the next thing we'll talk about is the beginning of who do we want to talk to and how do we want to try to convince them to affect this yellow line. So we'll do that the next time we meet. Bye for now.